Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Zemfira from Zemfira Games, and this is another episode of the Desert Wildlife Park. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to build this huge habitat for the African crested porcupine, another animal of the newest DLC, the Arid Animal Pack. And not only will I show you how to build the habitat, but also how to build the backstage area and the shelter for these cute animals. So let's get started. So right when we start building this habitat, let me tell you guys, this habitat made me go insane, like literally. Um, it was really hard for me to build this, um, and it took me, I feel like 5 or 6 hours, I'm not quite sure, but the issue, because it took me just so freaking long to build this habitat, is because, as you might can see already in the video, I started building this glass dome. My idea for this part of the zoo was that I built a dome, a glass dome, which would have been called the Desert Dome, maybe with a little extra, because I wanted to have the smallest animals of the zoo all together in this dome, which would have separate habitats, and some of them would also have like outside habitats where they can like go outside but also stay on the inside of the dome. And not only the porcupine would have been in here, but also the sandcat. These two would have been the animals from the newest DLC, but also other animals like the meerkat and the prairie dog, and two more, but I'm not quite sure what else I wanted to put in here, but 6 animals in total. And I was like doing a lot of like measurements and like researching how much space do they need, each animal, how many of these animals am I probably going to put into one habitat, how much space do they need, and stuff like that. And I was counting all together, and then planning out how much space I need, and like just doing a lot of prep work, and then building the dome itself. I basically used a very simple technique with the mud pillar. If some of you know, it's also very similar to the aviary tutorial that I did some time ago. It's basically the same technique. Um, but because it was glass and it was huge, you can see it in the background, it is ginormous. Um, and I made these hexagons, these glass hexagons myself. They are not like in-game pieces. I completely built them myself. It was all custom made, and it took me 2 hours to just build the dome. I have this one big dome in the middle, and then more on the back side, left and right, there were these 2 smaller domes. And it looked great, and the sizing was perfect, and I laid out some fences to check if the sizing was good for the habitats, if it would fit the way I imagined it, and then started building the habitat, as you can see here. And as I was more or less finished with the habitat itself, I needed to figure out a way how to like hide the areas where the domes basically connected to one another. Um, and it was so hard. It was just not smooth, and it was like really weird, and I couldn't figure out how to make it in a nice way. I'm like not an architect or anything like that. So I just couldn't figure out a way how to make like a nice seam almost between the domes, and to make it look beautiful and smooth in any kind of way. And I couldn't make it. And after like 2 hours of building the domes itself, then building the habitat, and another like 30 to 60 minutes just trying to figure out how to make the structure itself smooth and nice, I just gave up and decided to delete the dome. It was a hard decision because the habitat itself was basically finished. I was just missing the backstage area for the porcupines. So it was a hard decision because obviously the habitat was very fitted to the shape that I originally had from the dome and from the building itself. And I didn't want to build the whole habitat again because it would have been like 5 or maybe like 4 hours of building time just wasted if I would have deleted the whole habitat and rebuild it, and then probably another 2 or 3 hours of building it again. But yeah, I did delete the dome later, so you won't see me do any parts in this video that I later deleted. You're only going to see parts that are also staying in the new habitat or in the new building. Or fitted into the new building, and I figured out a way how to just delete the dome that I had, and just do minor like rearrangements in the habitats. There were just some really small areas that I had to like rearrange a little bit. I could basically keep the terraforming, the shape basically the same. You will just see the fencing on the inside is just a little bit different, and the left side area of the outside area is a little bit differently shaped, but the whole structure you see me doing right here with the rocks is the same. Obviously I did the background rocks again fitted to the newer building, but it is the same like scheme, you could say, maybe. So yeah, this habitat really costed me my sanity, like really. But in the end, I am really happy with this habitat. It just turned out so beautiful, even more beautiful than I imagined. I didn't had like a real plan for the habitat itself. Obviously, the shape, even though I deleted the building later. But I was just going with the flow and trying to figure something out. I didn't like plan any of the barrier, the fencing, the moat or anything. So I was just going for it. I obviously have a Pinterest board where I have many inspirations, but I couldn't find any really good pictures of porcupine habitats online. So I just tried to keep it like nicely with the other habitats, so it's like this basically the same theme. Obviously it's still a desert habitat because we are only building desert habitats, but yeah, and I came up with this dry mode where the porcupines could technically also go down so that it is accessible for them. And we have really low fences. The Zopedia says they only need like fences 1 meter high, I think. And for the inside area, I used these 1 meter, I think it was like a tiny bit more, but around about 1 meter fencing. And for the outside, we have like really low fencing, but we have a plant bed in front, so that the guests won't step right to the barrier itself. And obviously, due to the dry mode, the porcupines cannot climb up there because it is pretty steep. So yeah, that was what I thought. Also, I wanted to make it a really dry habitat, barely any foliage besides a lot of grass and dried bushes, because I thought that these animals are rodents, and they eat like fruits and roots, and I was thinking, because they eat roots, that we can't really have like any plants or trees that were like super accessible for the animals, because they would probably eat the roots of these plants, and they wouldn't survive too long in this habitat. So I just decided to go with like a few succulents to make it just a little bit greener. And the trees that are in this habitat are not really accessible for the porcupines, just due to their traversable area and the way they are placed in this habitat. And of course, many like grasses, because I don't think they eat grass, but I might be wrong. Um, and a lot of branches and dead trees. There are just so many branches in here. It is insane. I used a whole lot of different branches and trees. Obviously, the birch trees that you can see. I also used the like fused together trees that Caesar created in his Habitat Essential preset or pack it is on the Steam Workshop. I then also used some of the climbable habitat pieces that are like climbable for like monkeys, for example. I also use these because I really like the texture of them. They are really natural looking, and we don't have that many branches or dead trees in the foliage tab or the nature tab. And then I also went through the construction tab to see what we have there. And we also have some other like branches and small trees or dead trees. I think they are from the base game, but I am not quite sure. So yeah, I used everything that I could find that was anything like a dead tree or a branch. Because as I said, they are rodents, the porcupines, and they also like chew on stuff. So I thought that a lot of like wooden pieces, branches, trees, and also the bark pieces that I from tropical pack, I think, but I might be wrong. I use many of these so they can chew on them and wear down their teeth. I think that the teeth always grow in rodents. I'm not too sure if it is for the porcupines, but they just need to chew on stuff so the teeth don't get too long. So I added lots of these. And many like dead or dried grasses. I use the normal buffalo grass, and I also use the blue stem grass, I think it is called. I have used them in the dromedary camel habitat, which was the episode before this one that you are watching right now. And I used multiple of these dry blue stem grasses and made them into a little pile, almost like a bush. And just copied them and put them all around the habitats. I really love the look of it. I always sink them into the ground a little bit, so they are not sitting on top, but obviously sunken into the ground. And I just really love the look of it. I can really recommend using these pieces. So I used these all around, sorry, and some other like dead bushes and grasses. And going into the inside area, as I said, we have this really low fence where the guests have a really good look into the habitat. And I also here wanted to do some foliage in front of the fences and just a teeny tiny fence in front of the plant beds. I wanted to make the desert dome originally. Now it is a desert house. I am not sure how I'm going to name this house. But the idea was not to only house the smallest desert animals that we have in the zoo, but also to make it really lush with the plants that we have, like many plants of them that it's like obviously desert plants and like cactuses or cacti. Is it cactuses or cacti? I'm not quite sure. Yeah, and to make it like really beautiful, so there are going to be many plants. So yeah, that's what I was thinking. And obviously we also have a little background with these faux rocks. I only use the faux rocks, then the rocks from Caesar in the outside area, as you might have seen, and then some pebbles. And I only use these like normal rocks around the little enrichment item that they have, this little burrow. I'm not quite sure what it is called, to cover up the like wooden, I don't know what it's called, this wooden thing around it, you know what I mean, because I felt like lowering into the ground a little bit wasn't really looking really good, because this zoo is also built in a desert biome, so we only have like sand, and also the earth is like really orangey and sandy looking, so I couldn't use like the painting tool from the terrain to cover it up a little bit, because obviously the ground would also poke through the middle of the enrichment item, and it just didn't look good. So I just figured to use rocks to cover up the wooden outside of this item. And I honestly really like the look of it, to also have a little bit more of rocks in there. And of course many grassy patches inside, and again many of these wooden branches and these bark pieces. I honestly need to remember to use these bark pieces more often in habitats like this, because they are just really something different. We hadn't like any bark pieces before, and I just really like it. So yeah, and again, just some succulents to give it just a tiny bit of greenery. My thought, because of the desert dome or the desert house now, is not only to house the smallest animals, but also to give the guests the opportunity to go into a building that is a little bit cooler. We are still keeping it pretty hot because of the animals, of course, and the foliage, the plants that we have in there, they are all native to very hot environment. So it will be still pretty warm inside there, but not as hot as in the outside. As you can see down there, the outside temperature is 43 degrees, which is very hot, at least for where I live. We don't reach temperatures like that, and even if we reach like 30 degrees or even over 30 degrees, like people, they are melting away here. So I can't imagine what it is to be somewhere where it is 43 degrees. I actually was in the zoo today. I just came back from my visit at the Cologne Zoo, and it was really warm. It was, I think, around 30 degrees, maybe a little bit lower, and we were melting. coming back and just taking a shower was so good because it was really, the skin was completely wet and oily, and so yeah, that's basically because why I wanted to have a building where the guests can have it a little bit cooler, and also the animals can decide, at least the ones that have an outside and an inside area, if they want to be outside in the sun and in the heat, or if they want to be on the inside and have it just a little bit cooler, like maybe around 30 degrees, when in the outside there's like 43 degrees. And of course we are also having a inside shelter, where the animals can be put inside in case like the staff needs to like clean their habitats and they don't want the animals to run around there, or maybe they have like a sick animal, or maybe a pregnant animal that is giving birth. And yeah, that's why I also did these two separate, or not really separate, you can still like keep the store that I'm building right now open if you don't need the second stall, but if you need to separate the animals, you have two inside boxes where you can separate like maybe a sick animal, pregnant, whatever. So yeah, that was my thought. We have like these sliding doors, these metal sliding doors, also the one that you can see on the right, which is to keep the animals inside the building, and sometimes like maybe even outside. So yeah, and here you can already see in the background a little glimpse that the dome is gone now. We're gonna have a building that's not round. So yeah, you will see it in the cinematic shots at the end, how the building looks. As I said, I kept the structure really similar to before from the habitat itself. But yeah, we have a straight wall now going through the middle, and as you can see, the building is nowhere near done. I just didn't have the nerve to build anything more for this habitat or for the building itself in the last couple of days where I built everything. I sat down for like 6 or 7 times throughout like 2 or 3 days building this. So I was like, no, I'm just going to build the wall that is like directly connected to the habitat, so it still looks nice around it, that we have the background, and so it is nice for you to look at. So just like the base structure, you can like see how the building is going to look more or less now on the inside and also on the outside, but that it's literally just one wall for now, but we will build more with the upcoming habitats. The next one is going to be the sandcat, that will also have its home in the desert building, and there I will also show you how to build this house itself and the habitat, since I couldn't show you anything of the building, of the outside building itself in this episode, because that also would have just been too long for this episode. So yeah, you can see a little bit on the left that I have obviously the faux rocks as a background, but for the part that is like not covered with the faux rocks as a background, I used I think it was limestone, and I used these light blue limestones. The building is not blue from the outside, it's just in the inside, or at least in these areas, to mimic the sky. I thought it would look pretty cute, and I saw it with other inside habitats from other zoos that they paint the background, sometimes to make it look like a jungle or forest or something like that, and sometimes they just paint it blue to mimic the sky, and I wanted to do that too. And I feel like now with the faux rock background and the blue painted wall, it looks like there would be like a mountain or something in the background. Obviously you can tell it is not, but it's just giving the vibe, you know. So I really like that. I'm gonna do that probably throughout the whole building with this blue background, but we will see. As you might know, I don't really plan a lot ahead before building anything. I just go with the flow. I just literally just planned out the layout of the zoo itself and what animals are going inside of the zoo, and which ones are going to be together or neighbors and whatnot. But that was literally it. With the habitats itself, themselves, I just start building and we will see where it's bringing me. That's just the way I do it. So yeah, and for the last shot now, I wanted to do on the outside of the shelter. It is also covered with rocks. I wanted to make this little area where people could see the porcupines in their burrow. They not only have the inside shelter that we just built, but they also have a burrow in the outside habitat. And I wanted to give the guest the opportunity to see them there, because that's something that you don't really see very often if there are not like any cameras. So I thought it would be nice. I set everything up and it was beautiful, and then my game started glitching. So in case any one of you does have the same problem or is thinking about using these cameras in the burrows, it might not work. It might glitch. When you set them up, your game might start flickering with like fine structures. That what it was for me. The hairs of the porcupines and the grasses were just flicking horribly, so I couldn't keep the burrow camera, and I instead just made a screenshot from the camera view and put it into the little screen, so it still looks like it, but it is obviously not live, but we are just going to pretend. So yeah, and we are almost finished with the habitat. I hope you enjoyed this video, even if it is a little longer and a little bit more chaotic than normally. But I hope you like it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more, and just enjoy the cinematics that are coming up now. I hope to see you in my next episode, and until then, bye guys!